G'day guys, welcome to Scotch Down Under. I'm Ken.
I'm Scott.
And I'm the cue ball.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to explore how to drink whiskey. Do you guys know how to drink whiskey?
No.
No.
It's apparent.
So the number one thing we have to remember about drinking whiskey is there's no right or wrong way, and the best way is the way you like to drink it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I can't say I'm disappointed when people use a strong mixer like a dry ginger ale or a cola or lemonade or whatever. I'm definitely disappointed because I know how much it taints the flavour. But I don't hate on them for it
No.
because that's their preference. That's what their palate likes.
Yeah, that's how they like to enjoy it.
And look, you know, as for me personally, as I try to encourage people to at very least have a sip before they add their mixer. You know.
Well, it really depends on what you're drinking too. So the next thing is, are you drinking or are you tasting?
Yes.
Because if you're drinking and you're just having, say, a blend of some sort with some soda and some rocks sitting around on a couch watching TV, then drink it.
Yeah.
But if you want to explore a whiskey and delve further into the flavours and nuances and stuff you can get, then that's a little bit different.
Part of the way we've all developed our favourite little quaffers and stuff is like, you know, for argument's sake, like with me, like I've always got a Shivers 12 or a Dimple or something like that there that, you know, if I just want to have a couple of drinks and not really think about it,
Yeah.
bang, it's easy.
So what's your just grab it off the shelf and drink it, not think about it type dream?
I've got 3. Talisker Lafroy or Bowmore number 1.
But you're not mixing them, are you?
No. I don't mix whiskey at all. Like, that's just how I like to enjoy whiskey. I don't actually like that. I've drunk whiskey mixed with Coke and everything before, and I've tried all the ready-to-drink whiskies and stuff.
Yeah, pre-mixed stuff.
I don't like them. I don't actually like the taste of cola with whiskey. I can do it with vodka, I can do it with rum, I can do it with American whiskey, but I can't do it with Scotch. When I actually started to get interested in Scotch, or just whiskey in general, it was just mainly single malts. It took me a very long time to purchase my first blend. So
You know what? All this talking is making me thirsty.
I agree.
I literally was just, that's why I went, so. I was like, why are we doing this without whiskey?
I was thinking the same thing. So we need some whiskey.
We need some whiskey.
And we're not drinking whiskey, we're going to be tasting.
We are going to taste because,
Yes.
of course, we are classy and civilised.
You might be.
Well,
I don't think it is.
when I'm in front of a camera, I generally am.
So this is a almost dead bottle, so we're going to
Kill it.
It's a wounded
Kill it
zebra.
off.
We're going to put it out of its misery.
Yeah, we're going to finish it off. So, while we're pouring this, I suppose we should touch on glasses like we did on our glasses episode up here. But the main thing you want to make sure that you're not drinking out of a big, wide, open tumbler if you're trying to do a tasting, because all the aromas are just going to disappear into the heavens.
Well, but again, if you're just drinking, it's
Yeah, that's fine.
less important.
That's fine. But if you want to taste, you want to have something that's going to...
I'm going to have to be really slow and careful with this pour, I think. You know, I don't want to overdo it.
Buy bottle. So you probably shouldn't eat really hot, spicy, really strong flavoured stuff before you try and taste a whiskey, because you're probably not going to taste too much other than what you've eaten.
Well, yeah, I think spicy in particular because it can
Definitely.
sort of
Overpowering.
basically just really dull your taste buds.
Yeah.
But nothing exceptionally strong flavoured.
No.
Yeah, nothing too rich as well.
Yeah.
Richness always gets me. Like, if it's a very, very particularly rich pork belly or something with high fat that's super rich, that always kills it for me.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, like obviously depending on the time frame from when you've eaten to when you're going to do your tasting, you know, there's always, you know, little things like, you know, some soda water or even just drinking water to rinse the mouth and things.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you've got palate cleansers like those, you know, those real dull, boring, bland biscuit type things you can get.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider when you're trying to delve into whiskey is the experiences you've had in your life. So if you've never tasted a certain thing, as in you haven't eaten a certain dish, and you're not going to pick that out of a whiskey, are you?
If you don't season heavily, or you don't eat a lot of peppers and things like that, you're not going to get that peppery element of it, and you know, because it's all about how your brain interprets what it's getting.
That's
and what
right.
it relates it to. Yeah,
Everybody is different.
Yeah.
exactly. So
Taste
you
is
know,
subjective.
Totally.
when discussing these things, I guess the easiest way to put it is there's no wrong answer.
Definitely not.
As such, when someone says, "What are you getting out of it?" There's no wrong answer, because it's all about how you interpret it.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to say what's on your mind. That's for sure.
There's
When we're talking about whiskey flavors, another thing good to do is you don't want to sit in a dark corner by yourself and try and do this. It's more fun to do it with friends, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you're not able to get together with a group of friends, you know, there's always video chats and things like that.
Yeah, jump online.
You know, and even, let's go old school, a chat room and things like that.
Yeah, or if you want to explore it by yourself, write down the notes and the experiences that you're getting, and then compare it with someone else, or save it for when you are with somebody that you say, "Oh, this is what I got last time," and it's good reference for yourself to say, "Okay, I'm not getting it that I had before." So yeah, you can always do that as well.
Oh, it's like I do the occasional social media post where it's like, "Oh, you know, I'm drinking this tonight," and other people are like, "Oh, I didn't like it," or someone else is like, "Oh, yeah, that's fantastic," and
Yep.
you know, and yeah, they have a dialogue on the post itself, or you message them and you start chatting, and you're still sharing your experience, which is
Yeah.
important.
Do you want to grab the bottle and the tube there? So since we're talking about notes, one good thing is to actually look at the bottle and, you know, try and understand what you're drinking.
Yeah.
So even if you're new to whiskey and, you know, you don't understand all this stuff that's on here, a lot of the distillers and stuff will actually give you notes, which are great suggestions and hints to guide you
Yeah.
in what they think you should be getting out of it. And if you
mean-
don't worry about that. That is perfectly normal. Just looking on the front of the label, we are going to do a whole episode about the information that's actually on labeling. But, you know, you've got the distillery name there, and you've got 12 years. So that means it's been stuck in a cask for 12 years. And that is the youngest whiskey that's in this bottle. So there might be older whiskey. The youngest has to be the age stated. When you look a bit further, it says, combination of the finest Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso sherry casks.
So they're using the two different
Yeah, so you've got two types
of sherry cask and then blending together.
Yep, so if you've never had sherry before, then obviously you're not going to know what that is actually going to infuse into the whiskey, but sherry is a real fruity fortified wine, so you're going to expect something like that. And then it says Highland single malt, so we're going to do an episode about the regions in Scotland. Obviously that's got some kind of characteristics as well. And then down here, 43% ABV, so alcohol by volume. That's going to tell you, you know, the minimum has to be 40%, so 43 isn't too strong. I don't know whether you can see it on the bottle, but it does say on the tube here. It should actually state it on the bottle as well. It does say non-chill filtered, look up here for this episode, and natural colour, look up here for this episode. So that is actually going to tell you a bit about, you can actually look at the colour, because it's not actually had artificial E150A caramel colouring added to it. So the colour you're seeing is natural. So that can tell you a little bit about what kind of cask has influenced
This
the
one's
colour.
beautiful gold with it.
It's very
a
gold.
hint of green in there.
And the same with the chill filtering. That's going to tell you that none of the fatty lipid chemicals have been stripped away from the whiskey. So that could mean that it might have a nice, rich, oily mouthfeel.
It doesn't say it on the
which
bottle.
is strange.
See,
I didn't even see it
another
on here.
option in this day of technology, while you're actually trying it for the first time,
Pull out your phone.
jump onto YouTube, see if there's a video review.
Yep, video reviews like what we have.
Yeah,
and many
or whether
other
it's-
guys, and even blogs.
Yeah.
You can go to shops. They have a lot of whiskey reviews on shop sites. Other people reviewed the whiskey. You can look at the distillery website, the actual distillery website. They might have some notes on there. So when we poured this, it was a pretty empty bottle.
Yeah.
And we've been sitting here and talking about drinking whiskey, or tasting whiskey, I should say, and we've been letting it sit in the glass. So that's always a good thing to do. So if you get a fresh bottle of whiskey and you pop the cork straight away, pour it in your glass, and then whip, take a little swig, you're not really allowing those aromas and flavours to actually open up in the glass, and they're going to be a lot tighter in the top of the bottle than halfway down to 3/4, then down to the bottom. It's going to change through that whiskey. So if you get a whiskey and you try it straight away from that neck pour, the first little bit, and you don't really like it that much, let it sit for a while, go back to it, try it again. Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, we did that. We did it ourselves. The comparison between the two with the
Ardbeg.
the Ardbeg 10. We had a fresh bottle and a wounded zebra, and compared between the two, and yeah, there was a definitive difference.
A big difference
between them. So it just goes to show that just because it may not float your boat with that initial neck pour, doesn't mean you should get rid of it.
Yeah, because
come back to it, and obviously,
right.
As you delve a little further into the bottle, it's not changing it and making it more of what appeals to you, then by all means,
pass it on to someone else and swap it,
or give it to your friendly neighbourhood mooch that likes to come around and drink your whiskey.
That's right. Try it with other people. Try it with friends and stuff. And it also could be, like we said before, what you've eaten, time of day, your emotions, all those things can factor into your whiskey experience as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Can I drink it yet?
No, not yet. You have to take time. That's one of the big things with whiskey. You want to take time with it and enjoy it. As we touched on before, we can actually look at the colour in this, and it's a really nice, awesome colour. Now, if it doesn't say that it is natural colour, then you definitely can assume that it's had caramel colouring added to it, so there's no point in looking at the colour because it's not natural. The other thing to look at is the actual legs. The big thing with whiskey and the legs is the thickness and how quickly they come down the glass. If they come down really slowly, that usually means there's a lot of oily compounds.
Yeah,
so it might be a thicker mouthfeel.
More about the viscosity.
Yep. So if they come down really quick, you probably assume that it might be quite thin on the palate. So these are coming down really slow and thick.
Yeah. For me, with a whiskey, I interpret that as it's probably going to have some good, rich flavours and notes to it.
That's what we're hoping. You might have seen us in our episodes. We'd like to gently swirl. Gently swirling is recommended. I wouldn't thrash it around because one, you're going to splash it all over the place. But some people in the whiskey industry have actually said it actually hurts the whiskey.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing of, do you pour over ice or do you add ice? Because there is that argument of when you're pouring over ice, it's actually bruising it.
Yeah.
Weird term to use when it comes to alcohol, but...
Yep. So another way to do it, if you don't want to swirl it, is just to rotate it. So you're just going to rotate, coating the glass.
Just to roll it.
Yep, roll it around, and that coats the glass, and then it actually has those aromas on the side. So when you go into nose, well, before we nose, do you guys ever shoot your whiskey?
No, it hurts.
If you're going to spend good money on a decent, 12-year-old single malt whiskey, ideally, I mean, you can if you want to, it's perfectly fine, it's normal, but personally, I wouldn't just sit there and go and knock the whole thing back and then go, and then do whatever you're going to do for your day, because you're
not going to taste it.
You're not going to experience it to its best. Now that we've had a look at it, and now we can go into nose. Now, if you've never nosed a high ABV whiskey before, don't do that.
Now, see, for me with my nose, this is because was this 43?
43, yeah.
This is the one that really gets me. Because
the 43 is your magic number, isn't it?
There's been a couple of 46s and highers that I've really just shoved the nose straight in there. But for whatever reason, this 43 with me, I really have to ease onto it. So I'm actually starting to sniff when I've got the glass about, what's that, 8-9 inches away.
Yeah, the whole time we've been sitting here, you can actually smell the aromas coming out, and it's opening it up.
Because if I take that and shove my nose straight in there, I get that ethanol burn.
Yep.
You know,
I
so
have an actual whiskey up my nose right now, so it smells
It smells really good. Yeah, so as you're approaching the whiskey, you want to let the whiskey come to you. You don't want to sit there and just shove your nose in there because you're going to get that alcohol burn if you're not using it. So what you want to do is slowly come up to it, and when it starts to get a bit bitey and prickly, just pull back.
Yeah.
And then come back in.
And there are some, and I do it myself occasionally, rather than coming across that way. I actually do the
waving in.
Yeah.
Yep.
The side to side, because there is that indirect factor to it.
That's right.
But see, now that I've had a few short sniffs,
getting acclimatized to it. Yep. You don't want to take huge deep breaths, and one thing you can try is to actually open your mouth. And what this does, it actually allows what?
I couldn't keep a straight face. I opened my mouth too wide while doing that, and I had to laugh.
I just went.
But again, it is what works for you. The most important thing is to basically use both nostrils, not just one side. Because if you get, although if it's a really high ABV and you're getting a lot of that ethanol, you can sort of ease it across.
Because I bring it back and forth a couple of times, because that way I get like both and one of each.
Yep.
And that helps with me because I do get hit by alcohol quite well. But it seems on the nose it's gotten a lot better because I literally can put my nose in this and I'll be fine.
Yep. Actually, like you said, using both nostrils. So one nostril's always blocked more than the other. One nostril will actually pick up one nostril will pick up different aromas than the other one. Keep your mouth open a little bit. So as you breathe in, it's actually going all the way through, and you're actually sucking in a little bit of oxygen as well. But the main thing is just to explore it. But yeah, don't sit there and just go and just shove your nose in there. When you get acclimatized and you can really get in there, and then just take little sniffs and get right in there, and then swirl it a little bit, let it oxidize.
Sherry tickle on the back of my eyes.
Got a little tickle. Now we need to go for a taste.
And again, you shouldn't just dive straight into it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do that one.
Yep. Two schools of thought. You should take a sip and let it sit and swirl it around and then let it go down. Or, what we kind of do is take a little sip and let our taste receptors and the alcohol get acclimatized to it.
Well, for me, that first sip is always just sip and pretty much straight down.
Yep.
Just to
because it basically just coats the tongue, coats the palate, and then a little nose again, and then a longer sip.
Yeah, and with the nosing, you want to be nosing the whole journey through the glass.
I very nearly took a sip there without cheersing.
Oh, sacrilege.
Apologies.
I'll get there. I'm enjoying the nose.
That first little sip, I like to just take a little sip and swirl it around a little bit and let it go down, and then, think about the arrival. So that's the first bit as soon as it gets into your mouth. And then on the mid palate, what's it doing as you swallow it, and then what's happening after you swallow it, the finish, and then what's the everlasting finish after that. So you've got all these little segments. And the first sip that you have, and then the second sip, they're going to be different. Mm-hmm. And nosing it as well. So after you've taken that first sip, when you go into nose it again, you're actually going to pick up a lot more different stuff. Your taste buds and your olfactory system, they're really closely linked. And the whole time that you're nosing and tasting, things are constantly changing and evolving. You're getting acclimatized to certain tastes. The alcohol, you're getting adapted to it. It's oxidizing in your mouth is heating up the liquid, it's diluting in your mouth. All this cool stuff is actually happening.
Yep, you just said things, but I was zoned out because this is too good.
Well, that's good. That's what you want to do. You want to enjoy it. That's the main thing. Yeah, so going in for a second nose. And if you find when you're nosing a whiskey, you try... As the same with the food, you want to try and do it without really strong aromas around you. So, if you've got someone who's just put perfume on and walked past, it's kind of going to influence the whiskey that you're smelling. What's
I
that?
forgot I was wearing cologne.
No, it's not that. But just, yeah, and the same with if you've had
Can't be that good. I didn't notice.
a smoke fire, a diesel truck goes past. All those kind of things are going to influence the nose that you're getting. If you find that you're getting
Stimulated.
Yeah.
overstimulated with aromas, then you need to neutralize your nose. And any of you guys know the easiest and the best way to do that?
Water douche.
All right, Scotty. Well, we've all got our own unique
Scent?
aroma. Yeah. So, similar to that, but you want to smell your elbow.
That just feels weird.
It feels weird, but
It does actually work.
because your brain,
Yep.
your brain actually knows your own smell. So as soon as you smell your own smell, it's like a reset switch.
It genuinely is.
Yep, it's
Holy
pretty
shit,
cool.
I didn't know that. This is amazing.
Let me just say right now, I smell good.
Really? I didn't notice.
So after you've taken, say, a couple little sips, you might want to delve more into the whiskey. So take a slightly bigger sip and then let it sit in your mouth and then swirl it around. Make sure your tongue goes all the way through your mouth and just almost chew on the whiskey. And let it sit there for quite a little bit. And you'll find that...
I don't recommend you do that. I just
No,
had to
that
do it.
kind of burns.
I was literally, if I wasn't trying not to inhale whiskey from laughing, I was
were
gonna
gonna-
be like, that's gonna kill.
There is a lot of mouth warmth
Oh yeah,
Now.
yeah.
because, of course, I've just agitated everything a little.
While you're exploring your whiskey, it's quite interesting to understand that most of the things that you're smelling and you're tasting are linked to your emotions and your memory.
Via the hippocampus.
Yes,
It's a really good gin.
it is.
Fantastic Western Australian distillery. But it's the part of the brain that basically relates taste and smell to memory, which is why, for argument's sake, with a certain aroma you associate with a wet dog.
Yeah,
Whereas
or
with me,
grandma's
it was
Christmas cooking.
molding hay, or like with this, with a sherry cask. Some people that may never have actually drunk sherry themselves, they'll associate it with either like a plum pudding or a fruitcake.
Yep.
Or I so elegantly put in one of our earlier episodes, sun-dried tomatoes. When I
Sun-dried
meant-
tomatoes.
I meant
Yep.
I meant apricots, but I said tomatoes. But yeah, so there is that element of interpretation, which again delves back to what we were saying earlier with no wrong answers, because it's all about what you're thinking and how you're interpreting everything. I mean,
Yep.
it's like there are certain flavors that are very distinctive. I mean, the dried fruit, the caramel, and I mean, there's been
vanillas
some
and-
before
yeah.
that, I was getting coffee and dark chocolate, but you weren't. You were getting the dark chocolate, but you weren't really getting the coffee.
Yeah, because I'm not a coffee drinker. So I don't get that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's how it is. So it's always really interesting, which is again the advantage of doing this in a group.
Yeah, you get
In
suggestions
that,
from
how
other
people
people.
are interpreting
yeah.
it. Yeah, suggestion is a big part of it. I mean, I try not to read tasting note. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable because, of course, when you're selecting a bottle in the store, you're reading what's on the label, or even
Yeah.
if some stores have little tasting cards where a staff member has said, "Oh, this, and this." So that's already subconsciously planted in your mind. So in doing it without reading tasting notes and things like that, it's
You get more of
it's a more honest
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
appraisal of it. If you look back, if this is one of the first episodes of our stuff that you've watched, if you look back some of those early ones, there's quite often there's one of the guys will put forward a flavour or a taste sensation or a suggestion, or what they're getting on the nose, and you see, one of us sitting here basically going, yeah, I can see that.
I can say that. Yep.
Or it's like there was one where you said it was like grilled watermelon. It was like, no, it's not
Like
quite
a
watermelon
rock
sweet.
melon,
It was more of a rock melon.
Yeah.
And that discussion element, you know.
With everything being taste subjective, is only is
Yeah.
what you taste. If you look back at our episodes, there's a lot of times where we'll hit the same mark because that's something that we know quite
Yeah.
thoroughly,
Right.
like honey and
Honey caramel, because they're common flavors and predominant flavors, and
Yeah.
you know, and there's also that aspect of occasionally it's like you'll have something and it's like, oh, this really reminds me of this particular whiskey that I had 6 months ago. That really stuck in my head because it was amazing, you know. And there's elements of that in this, and
Yep.
which may be unusual because they're from a different region, sometimes even a different country,
Yep.
or even a different continent.
And like you're saying before, you know, whiskey you've had before, and we said earlier, drinking it with friends, the experiences that you have when you're drinking it with friends is going to instill a memory of that event.
Yeah,
So that next time you taste that flavour or smell that note, you're going to remember back.
you know,
And
and
you're going to make that link.
there is the social aspect of it as well. It's like, oh, do you remember that time when we were drinking this?
Yeah, and we
blah,
had
blah,
this
and-
came out. Yeah.
yeah.
So, adding some water. We're going to touch about adding water. Essentially, it opens up the whiskey and you get to nose and taste stuff that you couldn't without the whiskey.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the big things
Water.
is, you know, obviously subject to how much you add. Just adding a few drops is really not going to do much to it, but a slightly larger dose is going to cut the ABV back a little, take some of that ethanol factor out,
Yep.
and I suppose the simplest way to put it is that dilution does alter the taste.
yes.
It does. So we're going to touch on the water episode, but yeah, essentially adding the water, you've got water-soluble compounds that are going to get diluted. Non-water soluble compounds
It'll get concentrated.
are going to get concentrated and they're going to raise to the top and you'll be able to taste them better. Science. Yeah. So stuff happens in the glass and it's good.
I like the simple versions.
Yeah, stuff happens in the glass and it's
Stuff
good.
happens in the glass. Ooh.
Yeah, stuff happens.
Honey toast. Honey on toast now.
I would say fruit bread.
Point out that now I'm getting that off the nose and I wasn't getting
You
that
weren't getting
before.
that before.
And
That's exactly right.
So yeah, so
add
adding
some
that little bit of
water.
water for me
Yep.
has brought forward a bit more depth to the flavour. I mean, I was getting a little bit of sweetness and stuff before, but that's
It's
brought
yeah,
more
I'm
of
getting
it
your
out
toes.
because I'm less of the ethanol, so now I'm able to interpret those flavours a bit better on the nose.
Yeah.
And it does the same on the palate.
Yeah, totally. And don't just stop there. You want to add a little bit more and see what it does.
Like you think to yourself, oh, there's something else there, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Yeah, maybe add a few more drops that might bring that forward.
Or if you just want to see if there's anything else in there that you haven't been able to
Yeah.
find yet, add a bit more to the point where don't like that, and then remember that so the next time when you come back, not to go that far. Now, with your water, you want to try and use, non-sparkling, and try not to use tap water. Just use, a good soft water. Whether you just use bottled water or anything like that, that's perfectly fine. But try not to use tap water or,
Distilled waters.
distilled water. That's fine. Yeah.
There are some very, very highly, I suppose that's the best way to put it, highly purified waters out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some which have been specifically designed to drink with Scotch.
Yeah.
They're usually overpriced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing.
Because I know there's a company that has rights to all the springs that lead to certain distilleries, and so they sell spring waters to be paired specifically with these.
With those whiskies,
Yeah.
because the water is from the same source as where the distillery source is.
I found a website
like
ages ago. I could only find a case price for it, and they weren't cheap.
Yeah, I bet they
No, I bet they weren't.
Well, speaking of pairing, I have actually seen there's a company that actually has pairing chocolates. So another thing you can do with your whiskey is pair it with food, or have
Absolutely.
Bacons and chocolates and
cheeses and stuff like that.
pair it with other drinks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Boilermaker.
Because I was about to say that, then you just beat me and I was like, you paused, I'm taking this from you.
No. So, if you watch on our episode here about the Ardbeg 10, we introduced Stampy to the Boilermaker.
Yeah, because he was he had a
Guinness.
a Guinness there to sort of, in case it got a bit much. I think that was the pre-thought of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know Guinness is going to basically...
Well, he tried the whiskey, it knocked his head off, then he had the Guinness and went, oh, I like that. And I said, try it the other way. And he went, oh, I really like that. Yeah. So that's another thing to try. So if you've got a beer that you like, or you think that might match a certain type of whiskey, try it. And try it both ways. So drink the whiskey, then have the beer, and vice versa. And you find that, that can be quite interesting. So... And it's the same with the food, whether the food complements the whiskey or vice versa, or whether the whiskey brings out certain flavours out of the food or the beer, or the other way around. It's a really interesting, fun thing to do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's all about experimentation and what works for you. And, obviously if you have your favourite pairing, don't be offended if someone else doesn't look at it the same way as you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because again, it's such a personal and individual thing.
Very, very particular to how you like it yourself. Yep. So, and I think the number one thing is make sure you enjoy it.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
No point doing it if you don't like it.
No. So if you want to pour, a whole bowl of orange juice with your whiskey and you enjoy it, then go for it.
Yeah.
Apple juice and Irish whiskey, but...
And I mean...
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
that's
yes,
actually not too bad.
Definitely.
Fresh pressed apple juice and Irish.
Well, even a good solid Irish whiskey and a cider as a Boilermaker, if you want.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
But of course, the other thing as well is that we didn't really touch on earlier is, if you're trying a few different whiskies with friends, you do need to sort of stop and think and plan it out a little.
Yeah.
Because, for argument's sake, if you were to start with something that's beautifully light and fresh, like a Toki, and then something a little more complex like a sherry barrel or port barrel, and then finish with a peated, because if you start with something that's got a heavy peat, it's just going to demolish your taste buds.
Yeah, your palate
You're not going to appreciate those lighter, more subtle.
There is no smell in your elbow to reset that.
No, and if you're not don't understand what peat is, it's an experience. It's very different from a very light floral whiskey. It's smoky, briny, and very rich characteristic, and it can be
that top shelf over there.
Yeah, it can be very divisive. So, but yeah, it's like having a hot, spicy meal beforehand.
Yeah,
try not to do that straight away.
So basically, avoid, plan it out. Go with your light, fresh stuff. Work through to your big, bold stuff.
Yep. And if you've got a bunch of whiskies and you've got no one to help you, put a message down below and we'll let you know which ones to try first.
Yeah, or even join one of these just phenomenal groups on Facebook or other social media.
Yeah, post it there. They'll tell you straight away. Yeah.
Dramful Whiskey Tribe,
Scotch
Scotch Down Under.
Yeah. Link below.
And say, hey guys, I'm looking at doing something with this, or like I want to try a particular distillery, but having not had anything from them before, what do you recommend a good place to start? I mean, it's like, it's...
And it goes back to experience. What have you tried before? What do you like? What's the characteristics you like? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's like when, and I know you do the same, your guys are trained the same in your shop, if someone comes in and goes, oh, I want to buy a really nice whiskey for someone, it's like, okay, what do they normally drink?
Yeah. That is the first question. You cannot get away with that.
What do they normally drink? Because for argument's sake, if someone's a Johnny Walker nut, you're not going to try and sell them a lager with them.
Yeah.
No.
Or, but by the same token, if the double black is their favourite out of the Johnnies, is obviously they don't mind a bit of peat then.
Yeah.
So you can push them onto something different.
Yeah.
It can come into anything, because if someone comes in and like, oh, I like drinking like super earthy, smoky mezcals, it's like, oh, well, I can get you a Scotch, which is very similar to that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is just, you need to know what you like. And from there, everyone will be able to help you into new and exciting things.
Yep. And if you tried a bunch of whiskies and you don't like them, keep trying, because there's definitely one out there for you.
And you know what? If you're hesitant about buying full bottles of whiskey that you haven't tried before, or have no idea about, no information on, go to your local bar.
Yep, go to your local bar, get tastings. You can buy lots of tastings from websites. Or go to a tasting night at your bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or organise, get some friends together and organise a tasting. Yeah.
Have a night out, go to your local, one of your local bars that has a decent shelf.
Yeah.
And do some exploring.
Yeah, definitely.
We've done it on many an occasion.
We have, certainly have. So, yeah, number one rule, drink the whiskey how you like to drink it and explore it, enjoy it, and until next time,
Have a good one. What is this whiskey of which you speak?
All right, Vladimir, Jesus.
There's some stuff you put in a glass and then put it in your mouth.
Oh, that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.